Two people, same age, same city, same $50,000 sitting in a savings account they've been staring at for a year. One of them puts it into a rental property. The other puts it into an index fund and never touches it again. Same amount, same starting line. 20 years later, one of them has more than double what the other has. And it's not the one you're guessing right now. Her name is Maya. His name is Derek. And by the end of this video, you'll know exactly which one wins, why almost everyone gets the reason wrong, which one you'd actually become if this were your $50,000 sitting there right now. And there's a third person in this story too, someone who did everything right on paper and still ended up worse off than both of them. Keep her in mind. We'll get to her. I spend most of my time doing the thing most people avoid, actually running the numbers instead of repeating whatever their uncle said at Thanksgiving. If you've ever had the should I buy a house or just invest argument with someone and walked away more confused than when it started, hit subscribe. Because today we're settling it with actual math, not vibes. Here's what nobody tells you going in. This isn't a math problem. It's a psychology problem wearing a math costume. Keep that in your head because it's going to matter more than any number I show you. There are 5 things that decide this comparison, and 4 of them almost never show up in the real estate versus stocks videos you've already watched. Number 1, leverage. Number 2, the hidden ongoing costs nobody puts on a spreadsheet. Number 3, what taxes actually due to each of these. And it's not what you think. Number 4, liquidity. How fast you can actually get your money back when life forces the question. And number 5, the one that actually decides who wins. Which one of these people you actually are, not which one you wish you were. Hold on to Derek specifically. He does everything correctly by the textbook, and it still isn't enough, for a reason that has nothing to do with the stock market. And hold on to a third name, Priya, because she's going to do something that looks smart on the surface and turns out to be the most expensive decision of the 3. Maya takes her $50,000, adds a mortgage, and buys a $250,000 rental property. This is leverage. The single biggest reason real estate math looks so good in year 1. She doesn't own $50,000 of appreciation potential. She owns $250,000 of it. If that property appreciates 4% in a year, that's $10,000. A 20% return on her actual cash, not 4%. This is the number every real estate versus stocks debate leads with. It's also the number that's technically true and almost completely misleading, which is exactly why it needs the next part. Property tax, insurance, a vacancy month here and there, a water heater that dies in February, maintenance that isn't a one-time thing, like it's a permanent, recurring subtraction from that 20% number. Add property management if she's not doing it herself, which is typically another 8 to 10% of collected rent. Run the actual numbers most landlords never track, and Maya's real annual return after every hidden cost lands closer to 8 to 9%, not 20%. That's still good. It's just not the number the leverage math promised her. And here's the part almost nobody mentions. None of those costs care whether the market went up or down that year. A furnace doesn't check the S&P 500 before it dies. They show up either way, rain or shine, boom or recession. Here's where it gets interesting, and where most real estate versus stocks videos just stop, because this part is genuinely complicated. Real estate has a tax advantage stocks don't. Depreciation. Every year, Maya can write off a portion of the property's value against her rental income. Even though the property isn't actually losing value, it might be gaining. On a $250,000 property, that's often several $1,000s a year of taxable income that simply disappears on paper. Derek doesn't get that. His index fund gains are taxed as capital gains when he eventually sells, historically a lower rate than regular income. But he's not shielding anything along the way. Advantage, Maya on paper. And this is the part that trips people up. When Maya eventually sells the property, all that depreciation she wrote off gets recaptured and taxed. It's not free. It's a loan from the IRS that comes due later, usually at a worse moment than she'd like, unless she does a 1031 exchange and rolls the money into another property, which resets the clock, but also means she never actually gets to cash out and relax. She just keeps trading houses forever to keep the tax bill from landing. So the tax advantage is real, but it's not the free lunch it looks like in year one. It's a deferral, not a discount. Derek takes his $50,000, puts it in a low-cost S&P 500 index fund, and does something that sounds almost insulting in its simplicity. Nothing. No leverage. No drama. No 2 a.m. plumbing emergency. Just time doing the only job it knows how to do. Here's where most videos on this topic stop, and just declare a winner. I'm not going to do that yet, because the real answer depends on something those videos skip entirely. What Maya does with the leverage? If Maya refinances after 10 years and pulls equity out to buy a second property, her leveraged growth compounds the same way Derek's does. Except now it's compounding on 2 properties, not 1. Run that version forward and Maya can actually pull ahead of Derek by year 20, sometimes significantly. So the honest answer to which one wins is, it depends on whether Maya actually does that or whether she just doesn't. And that's not a math question anymore. That's a Derek and Maya as people question. Now here's Priya. Priya read enough personal finance content to think she'd outsmarted the whole debate. She'd do both. Property and stocks. Split the $50,000 down the middle. Sounds diversified. Sounds smart. Here's what actually happened. $25,000 wasn't enough for a real down payment in her market. So she took on a bigger mortgage than Maya did, with less cushion. And $25,000 in stocks is barely enough to compound meaningfully over 20 years. The math needs the whole amount working, not half of it split into 2 positions that are each too small to do their job well. She got $2,008 in year 3. The property lost a tenant for 4 months, right as her stock portfolio dropped 35%. She didn't have the cash reserves to cover the mortgage from either side because both sides were too thin. She sold the property in a panic at a loss to cover the gap, and sold stocks at the bottom of the crash to cover the rest. 20 years later, she's behind both Maya and Derek. Not because diversifying is wrong, but because she diversified her capital into 2 positions that were each individually too fragile to survive a bad year. This is the part that should bother you. Priya didn't make an obviously bad decision. She made the decision that sounds the most responsible, and it cost her more than either extreme option. Here's the thing nobody puts in these comparisons. Most people don't lose this decision to bad math. They lose it to a bad match between the investment and their own actual behavior. Or, like Priya, to spreading themselves too thin to survive the bad year that eventually comes for everyone. Real estate rewards people who can tolerate an ugly, uneventful, occasionally infuriating middle. A clogged drain doesn't care that you're busy. A tenant who's 3 weeks late on rent is now your Tuesday night, whether you signed up for that emotionally or not. If that kind of friction quietly drains you, the better math on paper doesn't matter, because you'll sell at the worst possible time just to make the stress stop. Stocks reward people who can do genuinely nothing while watching a number go down 20% and not touch it. That sounds easy until it's your actual retirement account in a real recession. And just don't sell turns out to be one of the hardest instructions a human being can follow. This is Derek's actual risk, the one from the beginning. He didn't do anything wrong with the math. His risk was panic selling in a bad year, the invisible tax that never shows up in a compound interest calculator, only in real portfolios. So if it's not really about the asset, what is it about? It's about which failure mode you're least likely to fall into. Ask yourself honestly, are you more likely to panic sell stocks in a scary month, or more likely to let a rental property slowly become a source of dread? You eventually unload at a discount just to be done with it. Or, like Priya, more likely to spread yourself so thin that neither position can actually survive the bad year? Whichever one you just flinched at, that's information. That's the real answer this video promised you, and it's not a percentage. If you want to actually run your own numbers instead of trusting mine, I've put a free breakdown calculator in the description. Plug in your own city's property costs, your own risk tolerance, and your own cash reserves, and see which path actually fits you, not just which one sounds smarter at a dinner party. Quick disclaimer, I'm not a financial advisor, and none of this is personalized financial advice. These are historical averages and general math. Your actual market, your actual property, your actual tax situation, and your actual behavior under pressure will change every number in this video. Do your own research before making a real decision with real money. So go back to the start of this video. Same $50,000. Same starting line. Maya, Derek, and Priya didn't end up in different places because one of them found a better spreadsheet. Tell me which one you are in the comments. Maya, Derek, or Priya, and I'll see you in the next one.